Today's episode of Voiced is from r/Amitha Butthole and is about a sister torn between wedding traditions and her family's dynamics, and another heart-wrenching story of love lost in the face of illness. What happens when family and loyalty clash? Subscribe if you enjoy. AITA for not giving my sister her wedding dress because she didn't invite my underage son. I, 40 male, have a sister, 30 female, who is getting married in a week. The groom proposed to her a year ago at a family dinner that left everyone speechless, but very happy for them as they are longtime companions. During this dinner, my sister asked my son, 17 male, to make her wedding dress. My son has always loved design and fashion. He took technical courses in these areas and sewing, and even his friends keep asking for his clothes because they are so beautiful. He agreed, but said that he needed time and that he would need her opinion constantly. At first, my sister was very frustrating. My son drew about 50 dress designs in a month, and she only liked one, which he continued with. He sewed it with great quality fabric, which I paid for as I wanted to get involved in a certain way. For 5 months, he made several adjustments to suit her wishes, as she always complained about something. After a while, he arrived at the final model, and it was just amazing. My mother cried seeing my sister in the dress, and I confess that I almost got emotional too. The problem was that last week my son came to talk to me about the wedding invitation that had not arrived for him, but for other family members. I thought maybe he didn't need one, but it still felt weird. I messaged my sister raising this issue, and she replied that she didn't want any underage people at her wedding because there would be alcohol. I asked if she was going to make an exception for my son, but she cut me off and said no. There are no children in our family. My son is the only minor, so I didn't see any sense in this rule for family members. And to make matters worse, my son was very sad and cried because he spent months on this dress and couldn't go to the wedding. I was very upset and told my sister that she should look for another dress as soon as possible, as she would no longer wear the one my son made. She called and yelled at me, saying I was being unreasonable and that I couldn't do this. My mother called me saying I should deliver the dress and follow the rules, but I didn't and hung up on her. Because of this, the family is divided. Many agree with me and condemn my sister's action, saying she could only make an exception, but another part says I am unreasonable and I am spoiling her big day. I don't think I'm being wrong, but just rational and paying her back in kind. So am I the asshole? I talked to my son about the suggestions you all gave me, and he agreed to sell the dress at market price. He calculated the price of everything, and the value was quite high. We sent the proposal to my sister, and she hated it. She said she couldn't afford it because it was too expensive, and it should be a gift because she is family. I responded by saying that it was too easy to say she was family to get a free dress, but not enough to include my son. She cried on the call and begged me not to ruin her day, but I didn't call because that to me was unacceptable. At no point did she offer to just let my son go or apologize for it. And for anyone who said that maybe she is homophobic, I'm not sure. But I think who could be influencing her is her fiancé, who is a Christian and has never been close to my son. However, I don't care if he is doing it or not. If she wants to exclude my son from this event, then she will also be cutting ties with me. And unfortunately, I won't post it. Wow, the emotional intensity in that last post really captured a raw and messy situation. It's heartbreaking to see relationships break down over circumstances beyond control, especially when uncertainty, like a health diagnosis, comes into play. And to add fuel to the fire, the actions of those we care for can leave us questioning our own worth and decisions. But speaking of decisions, the next post dives into a completely different realm of relationship disputes. Here, the stakes are high, and it's all about navigating personal boundaries and the consequences of choices made under pressure. Let's see how this tale unfolds and what choices the parties involved will face. Keep watching. Fiance left me due to my cancer diagnosis. I left her destitute. This was 4 years ago, so the sting is gone and my revenge has been had. We dated for 4 years and had what I thought was a great relationship. We were both well-established professionals who both owned homes in the same neighborhood and both with daughters in the home. Her daughter was 11 and mine was 16 when we met. We had actually planned to get married, build a house, and raise the two together. We planned the house build because she had recently been diagnosed with a neurological disease that would eventually put her in a wheelchair and need something accessible. During the planning stages, I began doing landscape and construction projects on her home to increase the resale value. All in, I invested roughly $30,000 US into the home, running everything through my side construction business for tax, permitting, and resale purposes. We had a contract that payment would be made upon the sale of the home. I produced invoices for each and every project, but never pushed for payment because of the prior agreement. Fast forward 6 months, we were looking at property to develop and finalizing drawings on the home when I began feeling ill. I couldn't eat, constantly vomiting and passing blood. I began noticing that my abdomen looked swollen, which was odd because we were both very clean eaters and were in the gym every day. So I went to the doctor and began having tests done. During this time, she began having small cognitive issues, and the stress of her current position was exacerbating her condition, so she took a $20,000 per annum cut in pay along with a lesser position inside the company. After a month or so of different tests and a biopsy, it came back that I had a golf ball-sized tumor in my stomach and would need to begin chemotherapy. So I began chemotherapy and radiation treatments, which made me, expectedly so, extremely ill. She was spending time helping around my place on the weekends and staying over more, to the point that they were both at my home more than theirs. At this point, I suggested that we go ahead and put one of our houses on the market and move in together until the new house was built. I have great supplemental insurance, as well as a long-term illness plan, so using that, coupled with the sale of one of our houses, would push us through comfortably and help ease the financial stress on her. Shortly after this discussion, she became extremely distant. Her daughter wasn't coming down and hanging out with mine anymore. She had excuses for not getting together. She quit driving me to treatments and stopped staying over. She then dropped a bomb, a sentence that will forever be burned into my psyche. I love you, but I can't see myself taking care of someone this sick in the long term, and I don't think we should see each other any longer. In a text, it broke me. I won't lie. This was the first woman I had ever opened up to and planned a life with since my wife died when my children were 1 and 3. However, I tried to be mature about it. I forced myself to understand her position and to accept what I could not change. I calmly, the next day, gathered all of her things, packed them neatly, loaded them in my truck, and took them to her house to leave on the back porch while she was at work, in order to avoid any awkward exchanges. Walking around the back and under the porch cover, I sat down a box and saw her in her back living room, on the couch, engaged in intimate relations with a man that she had introduced to me as a lifelong friend. I had dinner and drinks with this man and his girlfriend. We had gone on vacation with them as well. I never spoke of the incident with her and simply sent her a text later, explaining that I would leave her things on my side porch to pick up at her convenience. I discovered 8 or 9 months later from his now ex-girlfriend that they had broken up due to him confessing that he had been sleeping with my significant other, dating back to about the time we were finishing drawings on the new home. Now I'm angry. Revenge time. At this point, I had finished chemotherapy and radiation for the time being and was feeling healthier. I was going through some much-neglected paperwork when I ran across the file that contained $32,680 in unpaid, long-overdue invoices, which were promptly sent to my attorney to begin lien proceedings on the home. It turns out that I couldn't have done this a moment too soon because she was set to put her house on the market. Coupled with interest over the course of what was then 19 months overdue, the invoices were hefty. That, along with the agreement of settling them when the house was sold and attorney fees, left her with roughly $10,000 after the sale of the home and settling her current mortgage. She promptly had to back out of the purchase of another home and moved in with her oldest daughter, sister-in-law, and 2 grandchildren. She also had to leave her job and begin receiving disability. I ran into her a little over a year ago, and she looked as if she had aged 20 years and was in the wheelchair we had talked about. We chatted cordially, but briefly, and I excused myself and went on with my day. A few days later, her younger daughter called me and spoke of my running into her mom, and could we hang out sometime? I gave a vague answer, thanked her for calling, and again, went on with my day. The ex then called me a week or so later and began apologizing for leaving me as she did. Again, cordial but short, I thanked her for calling and hung up. She began texting, and this went on for several weeks until one day she asked if I could ever see us rekindling what we had, to which I replied, I can't see myself taking care of someone so sick in the long term. Remember the box on your back porch? Did you think that lifelong friend brought that over to you from my house? Good luck to you. Goodbye. I sometimes feel guilt over this, but not much and not often. Before I dive into today's posts, please consider subscribing for more engaging content. Wow, today's stories really brought out some deep family dynamics and personal struggles. From a sister denying her own nephew a chance to celebrate his hard work at her wedding, to a poignant tale of heartbreak, betrayal, and the quest for justice after a devastating illness, these are definitely some heavy topics. It's clear that both families are feeling the ripple effects of these tough choices. Let me know in the comments what you think about these situations. Was the sister in the wrong, and was the revenge justified? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Voiced. If you enjoyed daily, high-quality stories, please like and subscribe to show your support.